A sacred love. Self discipline is not punishment, it is a profound sacred devotion, a reverential dedication, and a deep honor to the supreme spiritual being that you are. It is the quiet decision to show up for yourself when no one is watching, when motivation is silent, when comfort is beckoning to retreat to your old habits. Self discipline is saying, I love myself enough to choose what heals, even when it becomes uncomfortable. It's boundaries over burnout, consistency over chaos, rest without guilt, growth without shame. This isn't about control, this is about care. Because loving yourself isn't just how you speak to yourself, it's making a conscious effort and commitment to your well being. Welcome to Breaking the Curse. I am your host, Susie, and this season is about awareness. The moment you realize that healing is no longer optional. We'll talk about generational cycles, boundaries, spirituality beyond religion, and the discipline it takes to choose yourself daily. This is where the work begins. Before we begin, take a breath. Not the shallow one you use to survive, but the deep one that reminds your body you are still here. This space wasn't created for perfection, it was created for truth, for unlearning, for the courage it takes to choose yourself after generations of silence. Here, healing is not rushed, grief is not hidden, softness is not weakness. You are allowed to arrive as you are, unfinished, becoming, and human. This moment is yours, and this is Breaking the Curse. Welcome back to the podcast. So, apparently, I forgot to record this one. It's all laid out, outline is laid out, and I skipped right over it and went to spirituality beyond religion. So I have corrected it on the podcast, I have corrected it on YouTube, and I even corrected it on my TikTok and Instagram videos. But this is actually episode 4. And today we're talking about something that often gets misunderstood, and that's self discipline. Not as punishment, but as devotion. Not as restriction, but as self love in action. If I were to ask you about the most important relationships in your life, what would you say? Would you name your family, your friends, your children, your partner? Notice everyone I named. The most important relationship in your life will always be the relationship you have with yourself. And sadly, this is the one relationship that often gets left out of the conversation. We live in a world that rewards productivity, sacrifice, and overextension. So finding time for yourself can feel selfish. And sometimes we avoid looking inward because we're afraid of what we might uncover. But neglecting yourself comes at a cost. Because the relationship you have with yourself sets the tone for your happiness, your boundaries, and your success. If you have a negative relationship with yourself, that perception begins to cloud all the other relationships in your life. That's one of the major reasons why I stayed in that abusive relationship for 20 years. Because I had a negative relationship with myself. I didn't honor myself. I didn't respect myself. I didn't love myself. Because had I loved myself, I would have never been in that relationship to begin with. Because I would have noticed from the beginning, this man don't love me. This man don't care about me. But because I didn't value myself, honor myself, respect myself, people take cues from us, right? we don't love ourselves, they're not going to love us, right? Because you know, if you love yourself, you're not going to deal with that bullshit. You're not going to deal with that shit. And you know, I'm thankful that I did eventually begin to love myself and left that situation. But my God, I wish I had did it earlier. I wish I had to, loved myself before I even met him. Because I wouldn't even give him the time of day. That relationship was a lesson I stayed too long learning. But thank God I learned, right? Thank God I learned to love myself. Because now, in the space that I'm in, I'm not willing to accept anything less than what I give myself, right? Because I love myself today. And I treat myself good. I value myself. I worship myself. I honor myself. I respect myself. So any man that comes in my life being disrespectful or treat me any kind of way, no, you can't stay. You can't stay. Absolutely not. And self-discipline is not about control, right? Although I do, like, I feel like self-discipline is really self-control, right? Because you are not seeking to control anything outside of you, because you know you can't, right? You can only control what's in you, right? And because you care enough about yourself, you want to honor that self-discipline, right? You don't want to overindulge. You don't want to seek out those pleasures, because there are other things in life that can give you pleasure other than drugs or alcohol or sex, right? Now, I'm not saying those things are bad. I mean, of course, if you have struggled with those things, alcohol, drugs, sex, then yes, moderation or cutting it out of your life altogether, right? But I do believe that we are supposed to enjoy those pleasures in life. We're just not supposed to overindulge in them. And I think that a lot of us overindulge in them. That's why we have alcoholism. That's why we have drug abuse. That's why we have sexual addictions, because we overindulge in them, right? But self discipline is really about care. It's about caring for yourself, right? It's about choosing yourself consistently, even when it gets uncomfortable. Because, yes, sometimes it will get uncomfortable, right? When you have to abstain, right? Well, I don't want to say me abstaining from sex is uncomfortable, because it's not, you know. I mean, I would love to, you know, be in a loving, healthy relationship and have, sex, but I haven't encountered that. So I would rather be content on my own, have sex with myself, right? Than to give my that part of myself to someone who isn't going to appreciate it, who isn't going to care for it, right? But let's talk about what self discipline looks like, because I think a lot of people get it confused. Self discipline is not going to look the same as mine, right? Because I never had a problem with alcohol. I didn't stop drinking alcohol for 8 years because I had a problem with it. I stopped drinking alcohol because I started to love myself and I realized I didn't need it. And so now that I have, started to, I don't want to say really drink again, but, I do. Like when I went to Cancun for my birthday, I had some pina coladas. I sure did. Absolutely. I think I had about three of them over the course of 3 days. I sure did. And then I hadn't had anything to drink. Oh, I had a mimosa on the plane, but I hadn't had anything to drink since then, until because I had bought some. Trader Joe's has these $2.99 proseccos. Because the only thing that I drink now is mimosas. I'll do a cider beer, or when I'm on vacation, I'll do a pina colada. And so Trader Joe's has these 2.99 proseccos. They're probably about you probably could get two mimosas out of them, I think. And I had bought them when I had went, shopping, at Trader Joe's, but I had them for like weeks, probably like 2, 3 weeks. And then I had recently went on this trip, and I was like, you know what? I got like 3 days off, so I'm gonna have me a mimosa, and there's still another bottle in my refrigerator. Like I literally only drank that one bottle, but so like it wasn't a problem for me. So once I realized I didn't need it to enjoy my life, now I can just enjoy it whenever I want to. Right? It's not a necessity for me. Right? When I didn't love myself, it was a necessity because I needed that I thought I needed that to have a good time, right? And no, I don't need it when I go on vacation, but shit, being on the beach in the hot sun, yes, I want me a pina colada. Yes, absolutely I do. I want me a umbrella drink. Yes, I do when I'm on vacation. So I never had a problem with marijuana either. I could let all those things go. The thing that I had problem with is cigarettes. But this will be my 16th year without nicotine, and I have no desire for that. Right? Have no desire for that. And I always make fun. People be like, you know, if you could smoke marijuana, would you? No, I wouldn't. I eat it though. I do some edibles, absolutely, if I could, but I can't, right? Because we get random drug tests, and that's really why I don't. I mean, I don't crave alcohol, right? Every now and again, it's like, oh yeah, I can get a mimosa. Like that's what I was thinking before, right? I'll get me some prosecco and have me a mimosa, and didn't drink it for like 3 weeks. So it's all about awareness, right? Being aware of yourself. It asks you to question your assumptions about who you are, what you're capable of, and the stories you've been telling yourself for years, right? What have you been telling yourself? I can't. It's too hard. But the success comes when you challenge yourself, right? When you see what you can overcome, what you're capable of, right? Self discipline begins with awareness, being aware of yourself, knowing what your weaknesses are. Right? Like I said before, if you know you struggle with drugs and alcohol, like if you have had to go to NA and AA, then you drinking again probably is not a good thing. Right? But again, I've never struggled with that. To be honest, I pride myself on being a self-disciplined individual. You know, even when I was drinking, it wasn't a necessity. Them cigarettes was a necessity. I used to tell people if I had $5, I'm not buying no alcohol. I'm not buying no $5 sack. I'm going to give me a pack of cigarettes. Well, this one when cigarettes was $5, right? Because I done been 16 years nicotine free, but they like what $10 now or something like that. I think maybe even more. But if I had $5, it was going on a pack of Newport Kings. Okay, soft pack. Nothing else. That was my vice, right? And once I got clean off of that, no, I don't have a desire. I used to have dreams about smoking after I quit. Like, and it was years after, probably like 10 years after, and I would wake up disgusted. Like, I was smoking in my dream? What the hell? Like, I don't even want the taste of it. I can't stand the smell of it. But that was my vice, right? So we need to be aware of our vices, right? And know that we can overcome them. So that's why I said, like, in a sense, it is about control because you are in control of that habit. That habit should not be in control of you. right? And I done told y'all this before. Them cigarettes had me in a chokehold. I'm telling you, honey, I would attempt to quit and crush the pack and throw it away, and I would go digging in the garbage to get me a cigarette and try to put them together, because I had crushed them so bad, just wasting money. I tried to quit so many times. Oh my goodness, you know, you know, self awareness. Well, I want to say this: we think we know ourselves, right? But until we have decided that we are ready to look inward and uncover who we truly are, we truly never know ourselves, right? Because emotional awareness requires intention. You have to be intent on becoming emotionally aware of who you are. Not a lot of us are living our lives based on who our families, who society told us to be, right? And I'll keep saying this, like, when we take time to reflect, ask ourselves questions, pause. This is how we become aware of ourselves, right? And when you are aware of yourself, you're aware of others as well, right? You become more aware, more discerning, a lot of people say, of others. And this is why I say, like, had I loved myself, I would have discerned that spirit was not meant for me. That spirit was no good for me, right? I'm telling you, the quiet moments aren't wasted moments. They're the most informative, right? And looking inside yourself is going to require you to become quiet. It's going to be require you to become still. It's going to require you to ask yourself questions, right? Because a few minutes of stillness can reveal patterns in your thoughts, reactions, and habits. Journaling is also another form of self-respect. I love to journal. I write to, so really my writing is my journaling, right? Because these feelings, these emotions, they come up and I have to get them out, and then I turn them into poems, I guess, long form poems, prose, or whatever you want to call them, right? With the hopes that it'll help somebody else on their journey, you know? Letting people know it's okay to have these feelings, right? It's absolutely okay. It's okay to write them down. It's okay to be angry as long as you do not take them out on anybody, right? As long as you don't hurt nobody doing it. Now, if somebody is hurt by my writing, then and they're triggered, then that might be a chance for them to pause and say, why is this affecting me so badly, right? Because a trigger is nothing but a guide to something that we need to heal within ourselves, right? So if my writing triggers anger because I said something about someone, then maybe it's time for you to look inside of yourself and see why that is so triggering, right? But writing creates a record that memory can't distort. It shows you where you've been and who you're becoming. And sometimes self discipline means asking for feedback, right? From yourself, right? Inviting honesty from someone safe can help you see blind spots without shame, right? And so this is really why I write too, right? Because I am going to share my stories, right? And if it does offend or, trigger, I want to say, I mean, people, sometimes will be offended, but if it triggers someone, that's showing you a blind spot, right? That you're failing to look at. Because that's all the trigger is. It's a guide to healing. But a lot of us want to see those triggers as a way to, retaliate or hurt somebody, right? And if you can't get your words together, make art, paint, draw, create, observe, right? Your emotions deserve expression, not suppression. Because your emotions are valid. Everything that you feel, they're valid. So yes, that's why I write them out. That's why I write my feelings out. And again, if somebody is triggered by it, then they need to look within themselves, right? Because I'm just writing what I'm feeling. And the emotions, they're coming up, they're bubbling up, and I need to get them out. And I get them out and I put them on paper and then I share them with people. But set goals that stretch you, right? And like I said earlier, like people are afraid, but challenges reveal your strength. Like you won't experience growth if you do not challenge yourself, right? It reveals the strengths, the weaknesses you didn't know you had, and highlight where growth is needed. And guess what? That awareness is love. Self discipline without compassion becomes self punishment. You have to be compassionate with yourself when you are practicing self discipline, right? Because you are going to take one step back, two steps forward. And you can't beat yourself up, right? So let's talk about gentleness, right? And I've already covered this in prior podcasts, but let's revisit this because it's so important, right? You have to release harsh judgments about yourself because when you have harsh judgments about yourself, you're going to judge someone else harshly, right? A huge part of self awareness is noticing when your inner voice turns critical and consciously replace it with encouragement. You have to turn that negative feed off. I think I've said this in another podcast. That negative reel will start to play in your head and you will begin to speak it, but you have to have the self discipline to turn it off and replace it with encouragement. Affirmations. This is why I give that self-love affirmation, right? You got to praise yourself out loud in the mirror daily. I love myself. I am enough. I am worthy. I am deserving. I am a goddess. I am love. I am a healer. When I first started this self love journey, I pasted that self love affirmation on my bathroom mirror, on my closet door, on the refrigerator. And every time I went into those spaces, I spoke it over myself. Now, when I first began, it was hard. There were days that I cried when I was speaking that over myself. But the more I continued to do it, it got better. I didn't even put it up in the new apartment. I'm just realizing that because I say these things now. It's automatic now, right? I listen to Tony Jones affirmations, right? Like, oh my goodness, I love her. Like, my auntie O, I'm not my auntie O. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't have no desire to compete with another woman because I am bomb dope. Like, I love who I am, right? So I have no desire to I have no reason to compete with another woman, right? And this was stuff that I was playing for my daughter, when she was alive. Cause no, we don't need to compete with nobody. We dope as fuck. My vibe is what? But in the beginning, it was hard for me because I had so much self hatred for myself, right? Being compassionate with yourself is also nourishing your body with food that supports your energy and joy, right? A lot of people will think that, I'm on drugs, but no, I'm naturally high energy, right? Like, because I don't eat a lot of meats. I eat a lot of vegetables. I eat a lot of fruits. I eat a lot of things that nourish my body, right? I move, I walk, I do yoga. When I'm in the hotel room, I do my best. I ain't gonna say that I'm consistent with it, okay? I do my best to go down and get a workout in. And if I don't get a workout in, I try to go to the pool and swim or go to the hot tub, you know? But I love to walk. I love to get out on my layovers and just go walk, right? And movement isn't about punishment, it's about gratitude for your body. Sleep is not laziness, it's restoration, right? And Tony Jones say that too. Rest is a revolution and a luxury. I'm learning to step out of survival mode. I wake up to my own BS. Awareness put me on. There ain't nobody to put me on. I am the blueprint. I allow others to tell on themselves. Their true nature will be revealed. That's what I gotta know. I love myself and others out loud. I am proud of what and who I love. I do the most for mine. That's take up spaces. But look, yeah, like rest and I learned this. This was when Aaliyah was alive. I learned that I am so much more productive when I rest. When I just say, you know what? I'm gonna be I say lazy, right? Because we're so used to that, right? People calling it laziness, but it's not. It's rest. It's a revolution. It's a luxury. And indulge in it. Indulge in that. Because when you rest your body, when you nourish your body, you find you are so much more productive. I'm telling you, you'll get so much more done, right? When you care for yourself consistently, you have more to give without resentment. And sometimes loving yourself deeply means asking for help. Therapy is not weakness, it's bravery, right? This is nourishment too. This is compassion for yourself, knowing that therapy is not a weakness, it's bravery. It's saying, you know what, I don't have this thing all figured out, or I have no one to talk to and I need to get this out because maybe you can't journal it, right? Maybe you're not comfortable journaling it. So go talk to somebody. I when Aaliyah was alive, and I still do this to this day, I would tell her, like because I had her in therapy, right? Because we went through a lot, right? I got a divorce, or her father wasn't, sticking to his custody plan, like so many things. So I made sure she was in therapy, but I also taught her creative therapy, right? The same thing I said before: journaling, art, dance. Pour those emotions out in expressive, right? An expression, creative expression. It's a powerful, powerful tool. Therapy and creative therapy, traditional and creative therapy. Very powerful tools to help with your healing and self-awareness and self-compassion, right? As we close out the podcast today, I want to say this. Self-discipline isn't about becoming someone else. It isn't about being good or perfect. It's about honoring who you already are and becoming the healthiest and greatest version of yourself. The moment you start choosing consistency over chaos, boundaries over burnout, nurturing over negative self talk, that, my friends, is self love. Now, I want you to take a deep breath and repeat after me. I treat myself with patience and respect. My discipline is rooted in love, not fear. I listen to my body and honor its needs. I am worthy of consistency and care. Every healthy choice I make is an act of self love. I show up for myself daily, gently, and intentionally. Now take another deep breath. Relax your shoulders and notice what shifted. Notice what softened. You didn't come here to be fixed. You came here to be reminded that healing happens in the quiet moments when you choose yourself without needing permission. Carry what resonated, release what no longer fits, and trust that showing up was enough for today. Every time you return to yourself, you are breaking the curse and the cycle loosens its grip. Thank you for joining me today. If this episode stirred something in you, take it as an invitation, not a burden. You don't have to heal all at once, but you do have to begin. And you can deepen this work with the Self Love 101 workbook package. It's a free resource located on my website. It was created to assist you on your self-love healing journey. In that package, you will get that self-love affirmation, and it's customizable. I created it for me, but it's customizable, so you can pull it up in a Word document, you can pull it up in Google Docs, and you can change it to your liking. Take charge of your life by making yourself a priority. Give yourself the same grace, devotion, and respect you give so freely to others. Because when you love yourself well, you create a life that feels aligned, sustainable, and whole. Until next time, continue to choose yourself over and over and over again. Thank you for sitting with me today.